Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Smashi Business Show. I'm Waris Ahmed.
And I'm Abdul Majid.
And it is the 22nd of January today. It's a Wednesday. How are you feeling, Majid?
I'm good. I'm feeling old.
Just
as
good?
Usual. Yeah.
Feeling old?
Yeah. Every day you feel older.
Why do you say that?
And wiser, maybe.
You love to emphasize your age. Why do you do that?
Because I'm old and I'm wiser. I think. My wife would disagree, but yeah. Age is just a number. I think it's just how you build your whole life.
No,
the
you know,
experiences that you go through.
Yeah. You know, with age, I told Majid this before and he found it hilarious. I always think that to be young is to be old and to be old is to be young.
Yeah.
That's the way that I'd like to think about it. You know, like, when you're young, work really hard so that when you're like in your 30s and 40s, you're chilling. That's the way that I like to think about it.
It really doesn't work that way. It works for a lot of people.
That's your life. That's your life.
A lot of people come up with good ideas, make millions and billions, and then they go into retirement after 35 or 40, maybe. But yeah, for the general public, I guess, the whole world, 90% of the population, it's hard work till they're 50, 60 at the retirement age. But yeah, it's a good idea. It's a very good idea to save for your retirement. Even if you retire at 50, 55, 60, always have something where you can enjoy life. Maybe at 60 even. Whenever you retire, you should have something. Like when you retire, you can do whatever you want.
You know, Majid, it's so interesting that you say this to me because the kind of parents, that I have that, the home that I grew up in, they never discussed retirement. No, really, like retirement was never an idea to us. Like for me, retirement is a concept that started coming up when I was just on the media. Like my parents were never those type of people. It was just like work was work.
Yeah.
And work was like a normal life.
Your last day, I guess.
Exactly. But then I also saw this other thing that was like, your life should not begin in the weekend. You know how for some people they only live for 2 days of the week?
Yeah.
I know, when I say that, I know it may sound crazy, but there are genuinely people who only live in the weekend. Yeah. Like Saturday and Sunday, Friday and Saturday, that's when that's life for them. But then their normal work days, it's when you do something, but it's as if like you're walking through it as if you're not living through it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you just go on autopilot during the weekdays.
Exactly.
Work, eat, sleep, wake up, then do that. I think the best thing that you can do that I did for a long time, I've forgotten it. I've gone on autopilot since I've come here because obviously new environment, trying to get it. But when you get settled in any environment, then you have this like half an hour or 1 hour every day where it's your personal time. It's your me time. So, for example, for me, I get done with my son. He sleeps around 7, 8, whenever his mood is. But 8 is the maximum.
Yeah.
Then you talk to your wife, sit down with her, watch some reels, talk about stuff, day. But you always should find like 15 to 30 minutes for yourself. Whatever you do in that time doesn't matter.
15 to 30?
You're on your phone, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, watching reels, no problem. You're reading a book. You're just walking outside. You're just sitting for no reason. But that 15 to 30 minutes every day, it's like a time which you will remember. And even if you don't remember, it's like living in that moment. Like, just be in that moment. Do whatever you want. So yeah, it's a little selfish.
You actually apply that?
Yeah, you
selfish
should.
To take 30 minutes out of a 24-hour day?
People will call it selfish that, you have this responsibility, that. But it will give you some like life to your life every day.
Some life. Is that what you do?
Yeah, you should. Everyone should. I do it, and I think it's a very good idea. At least have me time. 15 minimum is 15, but maximum I would say you don't. If on weekdays you don't really have much time. You have so much to do. Prepare for the next morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, half an hour if
Majid,
you can get it.
It's interesting that you say that to me because honestly, I feel like when it comes to work-life balance with me, I'm such an extremist. No, really, I would call myself an extremist. I'm one of those people who, this concept of reading a book for like a month and 2 weeks, that is not okay with me. If I read a book, it's going to take a day or it's going to take 2 days maximum. No, I will sit there. The couch, I will not move. That's how I operate. Like if I do something, I'm an extremist. It's like, it's either I'm doing none of it or I'm doing all of it.
Some people are very slow readers. They need to read 3 sentences like 3 times because they want to understand everything. For quick readers like you and me, I think we always try to get the gist of whatever is written
The
and
best
move
part.
forward. We want to know the story. What happens next? What
The
happens
best
next?
hook.
Yeah.
The best hook for sure.
For some people, they really want to spend every point or moment or inch of focus that they have on every word. For me, to be honest, I'm a quick reader too. I love to complete a book in 1 day or 2 days. So maximum 2 days. So for me is the idea of what's happening. What's the most important part of this book?
No, for
and
me,
there is a
I,
book by this lady. She runs, sorry, very bad with names, but she has a book and she runs a NGO in US where they tell people how to read quickly, and they train people to read quickly to get everything out of it. So her idea is basically to remove the it and the, just read quickly. So don't read those
No,
words.
I don't
just,
like doing that.
Yeah, obviously
I
you
feel like
will
it's
read
like an
them.
injustice.
No, but if you want to be a quick reader, you have to skip the useless parts, the articles, and just read the words. And to be honest, first time it will feel weird, but eventually you'll realize in your brain you're reading those words.
Yeah.
But don't read them. Like physically don't read them. And she says that start by reading physically as well, not in your brain. Like you, I think, no other thing, right? You don't physically say the words.
I do kind of whisper.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it,
Yeah,
but like, you
but
know when a
people
book
do
is
it.
so exciting to the point that like I need to
Yeah.
read this, like
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to read this.
Read.
But when I was mentioning the extremism part, Majid, I meant it in the sense of like, I'm all or nothing.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people, and to be honest with you, I really do feel like it will kill me one day. I'm such an all or nothing person. I'm never in between. Like there's no in between going on. There's no, like, you know, being moderate. That does not exist in my world. I'm all or nothing, and it's like it's either I'm
not
all
good.
in or I'm either all. What do you mean it's not good? It's
not
either
good.
it's either I'm all in or I'm all out. I don't
should
have
be.
balance.
I think balance and moderate personality is the best way to go. Like emotionally, physically, even if you push yourself too much as an athlete, you'll get an injury. If you push yourself too much as a business investor, you'll lose all your money maybe because you'll go all in into something. So having moderate personality, even Islam says, what's the word? It's a very nice word. I think it has Arabic roots. But can't remember. What would you call balance or like moderation in Arabic? There is a word for it.
I wouldn't describe it like that, but I
There is
remember
a
there was
hadith by the Prophet, basically, which says, which talks about moderation in everything, finances,
there
personal
is,
life,
there
relationships.
actually is. I remember we were taught something in Islamic class.
Starts with mo.
I don't know the word you're saying, but I remember we were taught something in Islamic class, Majid, and they called it al-tatarruf. And al-tatarruf actually, a form of tatarruf is terrorism. So terrorism, that's extremism, but al-tatarruf doesn't just encapsulate terrorism. Al-tatarruf also means like overdoing it in anything. Like
so
you pray like
basically
30
avoid
times a day.
al-tatarruf.
Yeah, exactly. Avoid al-tatarruf. Like for example, you're somebody who's praying like 20 times a day. You know, you're fasting all the time, or that's what al-tatarruf is. Or you're not eating everything that you should because there are certain foods that you're cutting off because of certain. They call it al-tatarruf.
Oh,
So you want to avoid al-tatarruf in
I'tidal.
everything in life.
Do you think it has, does it mean anything in Arab?
Say that again.
I'tidal. I'tidal.
Al-ihtidal? Yeah,
this
it
thing.
does. Please show me.
So moderation, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is what they say that you should be. Everything will be perfect.
Moderation.
Yeah,
Well, let me
moderation.
tell you something about the Middle East. They
Yeah.
don't do anything in
They don't do
moderation. They
moderation.
don't do anything in moderation. Like, I mean,
They're
look at
going all in.
Burj Khalifa, and now we have something that's even more crazy. We have the Jeddah Tower.
Yeah.
And the Jeddah Tower, which is set to be built in Saudi Arabia, construction has just resumed, is actually supposedly going to be even taller than Burj Khalifa, which has already been hailed the tallest
Yeah.
building in the world.
So it's
I mean-
1,000 meters, basically 1 kilometer. That's the proposed plan.
Yeah.
And funnily, yesterday we did a video on it, and I was looking at the press conference, the very first press conference that Prince Al Walid bin Talal Kingdom holding. He's
Yeah.
become like a big person for us. Every day we're doing something about
Yeah.
it. But that guy has a very charismatic personality. So in the press conference, he said that right now, like this was 2014, he said right now it's 1 kilometer, but we don't know. Maybe we'll go above. So, but that happened 2018, a lot of corruption charges, the whole construction stopped. They resumed last year around September, but unofficially. It was just said that, oh, there is something going on, some construction. But 2 days ago, Kingdom Holding Company officially tweeted that, yes, whatever you're looking, seeing, hearing about, we have actually restarted the construction. And Prince Al-Walid bin Talal said that the tower only will cost $26 billion. Only the tower. And again, going back to the 2014 press conference, the very first press conference that he did on the spot, he said the whole project will take 20 billion. So imagine it's going to cost them more.
It's over
now.
their budget.
Yeah.
It's over their budget.
$26 billion, that is 100 billion Saudi riyals. That is what is going to cost only to make the tower. Then they have a whole site development going on as well, which will have commercial. You go to Burj Khalifa, if you've seen Burj Khalifa, there's
I've never entered it, have you?
No, I haven't gone to Burj Khalifa, but I've seen the area around it. So all that development is also part of the whole project. So basically the tower is now 26 billion worth, and the site development will also take place. It will go up to, and the whole covered area is 1.7 million square meters. The tower is around 80,000 meters. So the rest of the development will take another bunch, like a whole set of money. So corruption costed them. One, it costed them because the first completion date was 2018. It didn't complete because a lot of things happened. There was a very weird term that I read yesterday in CNN article, Arab Purge. So basically when the prince right now, Mohammed bin Salman, His Royal Highness, he came. He saw wherever the corruption was and he uprooted all of it, cleaned Saudi Arabia of any corruption which was going on. And in Kingdom Holding, they also found there was a lot of bad stuff happening. So that is why the construction stopped. But now it's finally started 2028.
Oh, wow. It's coming up. It's
Yeah.
coming up. How old am I going to be in 2028?
I'll be very old. I've stopped
2028?
counting, but yeah.
Okay, I'll be about like 23 years old,
Yeah.
inshallah.
Yeah.
But imagine, you know what I find so interesting about this? So imagine just told you guys how, when Al-Walid bin Talal first announced it, the budget was only $20 billion.
For the whole project.
For the entire
even
project.
Even the side developments
And now
as well.
it's $26 billion. You know
Only
what I find
for the
this?
tower.
Oh.
That's crazy.
Oh, but I find that interesting though, and you know what? I find that interesting from a technical side in the sense of, when you discuss budgeting, you know that there's actually this ongoing debate in, the scholar world, Majid, where there are some scholars that actually argue that traditional budgeting does not work and that you should go for something. I believe what it's called is that it's called beyond budgeting.
Okay.
And it was proposed by these two scholars, Hope and Fraser, in 2013. And it's like, I think with budgeting, that's why it's so good to go for something like beyond budgeting. Beyond budgeting is basically when a company constantly reassesses its budgets.
Yeah.
It's constantly reassessing its budgets to actually change depending on what's going on in the market, reflect what's going on in the market, what's going on in the company, changes that are occurring. Whereas like a traditional budget, that's like a fixed target that you have. And I think in the case of Saudi Arabia, when I take a look at the way that this number increased, it increased by $6 billion for this tower.
Yeah.
And that's just the tower, as you said. The way that I look at it, I think that they have a good budgeting process in place here, in the sense of that they're willing to change it. They're willing to change it depending on what's going on in the market, depending on what's changing the expenses, because things do increase, inflation does occur. And I especially we saw that also happen with the Neom project. Its budget, its budget
it's
did
going over budget.
Yeah, its budget did increase. They did have to, they did have to get some bond sales so they could actually cover up for the expenses for it. But what I'm seeing here, some may argue that what this is showing is that these projects are not attainable, as Western media would like to argue.
Yeah.
But when I take a look at this from a financial view, what I'm seeing is that Saudi Arabia as a country, the projects that they have, especially big projects like this with Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, they have a really good I think, financial structure in place. Because if you're willing to have something like a beyond budget, where you're willing to change with the times, I think that's what causes a system to be really successful. Do you think that, Majid? Do you think a traditional budget is better? Or would you say that it's better if companies change it depending, it could be in 6 months, it could be annually, depending on the changes that are going on?
I don't know
What's your view on
about
that?
the terms that you talked about. I know these terms, but I
Yeah.
didn't know they have names, because project management was one of the events that I did in my last company. I was in an events management company, and we had a lot of events, and one of them was Project Management Forum by Saudi Arabia. And there's a global company which is only doing project management. So they're doing universities, degrees, they're doing conferences. So I remember a few talks from there, and the thing that you're talking about, basically it has so many layers, because when you build a project, it's not just building it, just sourcing the material and just building it. The humans involved in it, everything that is involved in it has to be budgeted. So it has so many layers. The good thing about it, the last year when the event happened in January, before I was here, I remember everyone in project management was talking about AI. And everyone is still talking about AI. But Project Management Forum, these guys, they came up with like 4 or 5 new AI tools, which are now widely used throughout the world. And the thing that you talked about beyond budget, I think that is the main core idea of those AI softwares, that they don't just give you an estimate like, oh, you'll need these many people, per person cost will be this and this and this. It actually changes on the basis of the dollar fluctuation, the oil fluctuation. So you can literally add all the metrics in it, and it will give you an estimate every day, every hour, that now your budgeting has changed to this. So AI, thankfully, is also helping this.
Yeah.
So your point that beyond budget, the idea has gotten like approved. I didn't know that it was called beyond budget.
Hope and Fraser,
Yeah.
2013, they coined the term
Yeah.
as beyond budget. But
yeah.
what was so interesting about it is that the way that they described it, a beyond budget, it's not necessarily just being open to the fact of actually changing the budget. The advantages that come with it, Majid, it's like whatever capital allocation that you allocate, you won't overinflate it or underinflate it, because of the fact that every 3 months, every 6 months, it really depends on the financial year and company policy. But because of the fact that you're analyzing the market trends, how the prices are changing, how certain expenses, they're going down, they're going up. So what you end up doing, because of the fact that you can change the budget, it's not fixed. You don't overinflate what you need, and you don't underinflate it either. And in the case of what we've seen with the Jeddah Tower, they needed to overinflate it. They needed more. Imagine if they had just kept the budget at that. The quality of the building, it would not be that good, would it?
Also, you have to realize 2014, when they decided 20 billion for the whole development, 1.7 or 1.5 million. At that point, he said 1.5. Now the official number is 1.7 million square meters. So at that point, 20 billion was a lot. Now 26 billion, I don't think is even equal to 20 billion. The dollar to real conversion, I think it has stayed stable for a long time. But again, the buying power of the stuff that you need, the buying power of humans, like the human capital, their pays, their salaries, everything has increased. So that also affects it. Funny thing, just because of what you talked about, the press conference that I was seeing, it at the end part of it, a lady asked a question like, how are you going to get the financing? You need a lot of money to build this. And he looked at them and he's like, obviously some of it is, it's basic science. For any real estate project, you take some money from yourself. Remember, we talked about Hussain Sajwani.
Yeah.
He's promising 20 billion, but he'll take 60 to 70% money from the bank. So that is the exact same thing Al-Walid bin Talal in 2014 said, that obviously it's a real estate project, we'll take 60 to 70% from banks, and the rest I will sponsor. My Kingdom Holding company is putting the money in. And funnily, the lady asked that, where is the government in all of this? How are they supporting you? And his reply, like, I wasn't expecting the reply that he gave.
What did
in
he say?
2014, he said that we need to make a sovereign wealth fund. We need to build a bigger sovereign wealth fund which invests outside, which invests billions outside or maybe inside and then gets money. But because he said that in 2014, he said that 90% of our economy is run on oil. And the oil money comes in, we use it to take more oil out. It's not reinvested in the country, or the money doesn't make money. That was his idea. In 2014, at the end of that press conference, he says that we need to build a bigger sovereign wealth fund. So imagine this person.
They built that sovereign wealth fund, and that sovereign wealth fund, it did expand outside.
It's a $1 trillion giant now.
And Majid, we saw how they invested into Heathrow Airport.
They've
invested into football teams. They've absolutely done it all to the point. They've done it all to the point that we saw how. I remember they implemented this percentage. It was about 20%, where they decided, okay, now our investments are going to start going inside of the country more than outside. That's how much they invested. Which I think is absolutely crazy.
Funny part is, I don't think in 2014 PIF was thinking about it, or even we had the name PIF. He talked about one of the sovereign wealth funds which Saudi had, which was called something else. Now it's called PIF. So imagine this person, the more you read about it, the more you go and watch his videos.
You're making him sound like a prophet.
Not a prophet, but he is at its core the most business savvy person I've seen in the Middle East now. He talks business like it's on his fingertips.
And it's interesting how everything is tied. It's interesting how everything is tied because you have the MBC, right? And I with the MBC I would say that for Al Walid bin Talal, it's like his heart. You have the MBC, and by the way, PIF, they purchased not even invest, they purchased 55% stake. So it's interesting to see how these things are tied. But honestly, Majid, I did not know this. This really does make me question, did he instigate this?
Yeah, obviously, he said that I talked to everyone in the government. I want them to build a big sovereign wealth fund. And he gave the example of Norway. He didn't give the example of Abu Dhabi or anyone. He gave the example of Norway. So he, at that point, even 10 years ago, he wanted to compete against the best sovereign wealth fund in the world, the Norway Sovereign Wealth Fund. Oslo, which Abu Dhabi recently beat. You remember? Abu Dhabi became the biggest sovereign wealth fund. So in 2014, his vision was that I want, or we should, as Saudi, have a public sovereign wealth fund, which should be Norway's fund. I was like, this guy, business mind, business acumen, I think he's now one of my favorite people. I love the DP World heads. What's his name? Mohammed bin Sulaim. Not Mohammed bin Sulaim, is the son. Ahmed bin Sulaim, His Excellency. He's the head of DP World. But now he's Al Walid bin Talal is my second favorite guy. Not second favorite, they're both at the same position. Because these people, you go back and look at what they're saying, 20 years ago, everything makes sense now. So they had such a futuristic vision and approach.
I think for me,
business-wise, great people.
I think for me, one of my favorite businessmen, I would say, is Khalaf al-Habtoor.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's maybe I'm biased because I know.
You told me your father loves him also.
My dad has the book, by the way. He read the entire book, but more than that, it's I think maybe I'm biased because of the fact that I went to Emirates International School, Jumeirah. It's owned by the Habtoors, and they also own Emirates International School Meadows. But I grew up with his nieces and his nephews, and I know them, and it's to be honest with you, the empire that he's built, and it's I always tell my best friend this. I'm like, man, the personality that you have, this is powerful. You could do so much with this, and I would say it's Khalaf al-Habtoor. I would definitely say that because, by the way, you know why he's a really interesting businessman? It's because of the fact that everything that he did, it's not actually linked to anything royal. It's because he's a good businessman. That's really what it comes out of. And when you dig into it more, Majid, the Habtoors, they have hotels all over the world. All over the world.
They're opening one in Hungary. I saw a video. I don't remember exactly. It was in Arabic, so I didn't get the idea. But I saw the caption. So they're building something in Hungary. He's building everything.
They're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. You have London. You have South Africa. And it's to me, when you build something and you build something that big, and you expand its sphere all over the world, I think that's when you've done it. And I think that's what we're seeing Sajwani And
Yeah.
you know,
And going to
I think
US.
right now with him building these $20 billion data centers in the US, those are the baby steps for what Khalif al-Habtour has already done.
Al-Abtur Palace in Budapest. He's building one there.
And
He
it's
announced
it's
it.
just
Okay.
it's just seeing what they've built, everything that they have, and
Yeah.
it's like, you know, his grandkids, you know, they're some of my dearest friends, and I really love them. Their personalities, and I always ask them, I'm like, you know, guys, how did you turn out like this? I always ask after people's personalities, by the way, because I truly believe, Majid, when you have charisma, you can do better. I don't think it's about, by the way, I don't think it's about intelligence. I don't think it's about intelligence whatsoever. I've met so many smart people. They're barely doing anything.
Yeah.
I think it's how convincing you are. It's how convincing you are that defines the trajectory of your life. And let me tell you, his grandkids, you know, I went to school with them, and it's like, the school that I went to, by the way, I was there for 14 years. From like KG2. No, by the way, Majid, I am a product of it. I didn't go to kindergarten and I didn't go to nursery. I was one of those. It did affect me later on. You know, we'll talk about that another time. But I didn't go to kindergarten. I didn't go to nursery. My parents just threw me into KG2 immediately, and I graduated from that school in year 13. And it's my parents never wanted to change me from my school, because in their mind they're like, we don't want to move you and, you know, affect your mental health, because it does happen, by the way, when you're constantly moving a kid between school to school. But I am a product of that school. No, really, I am an absolute product of that school. And it's like, you know, I grew up, these are the people that I grew up with, and the lessons that they imparted onto me, you know, they're lessons that I'll keep with me forever. Like, by the way, there is a, you know, when you're around somebody who's wealthy and you're around somebody who's not wealthy, there is a difference in the way that they behave. In the sense of like, Majid, for example, when I'm like, you know, with some of my best friends, and something goes wrong in a restaurant, you say, right? I notice my middle class friends, they won't stand up to it. They won't do anything about it. No, I mean it. Like, they're like, oh, we're shy, we feel bad. But then when I'm around my rich friends, they're not afraid to actually ask for, no. If something actually goes wrong and it's within reason, they're not afraid to call someone up and be like, hey, this was wrong, we need to fix this. I've analyzed this change of attitude, and I'm like, yo, this is interesting, because they called me out on it. They're like, you know, an injustice just happened to you. Why are you not standing up for yourself? It's like, that's why to me, like, wealth, I always think of it as in, it's not just wealth. It's, by the way, wealth in character. It's all about your character. It is. And they, you know, these are the things that they taught me. By the way, you know, Majid, I'm one of those people, before I make any decision in my life, I speak to a consultant. I absolutely mean it. No, I absolutely mean it. I have one of my family friends, she used to work for Accenture. She used to be a consultant. She moved to tech. Before I make any decision, I speak to this woman. I speak to my uncle in the UK. I'm like, guys, like, I don't speak to my parents. And this is no hate to you guys. I love you so much. But like, you know, my dad's an engineer. My parents are the type of people, by the way, whenever I'm like, oh, this happened to me, something went wrong, they'll always tell me to not stand up for myself. Like, go easy on it, like, you know, like that kind of thing. You know what if I'm honest with you, Majid, they don't even stand with me. They're like, we feel like you did something wrong. But whenever I go to these people, like, I know, Majid, that I'm young. I know that there's expertise and knowledge that I don't know, that other people know. And guess what? I make use of it. I go ask people questions. I'm like, how do I do this? Like, what would you do? Anyways, for our second topic today, the Abu Dhabi government has launched the Digital Strategy 2025 to 2027, focusing on transforming into an AI-powered government. Yeah. Now, I think this is so interesting, because I never thought in a billion years that I would hear the term AI-powered government. What does that even mean? Do you want to tell us?
It's just that they'll make all their processes AI-powered. They'll train all the people on AI, so they're like experts in it. And obviously we've seen AI helps you make all the processes efficient, faster, quicker. So that's the main idea. But apparently the strategies and the initiatives that we'll see under this whole strategy for 2 years, it'll create 5,000 jobs, it'll add 24 billion to the GDP. That's an important part, because they're spending 13 billion on it and they're getting 24, so that's a profit of $11 billion. So these are the main highlights of this whole strategy. The whole strategy itself obviously will come in front of us in the form of initiatives that we'll see throughout the 2 years. So that's the most important thing. That's the crux of the whole story. Yeah. So
But
AI.
it's just when I take a look at it, it's like AI powered government. Would you have ever dreamed of ever reading that?
No. With the UAE, we talked about it at the start of the
Yeah.
show. They will never take the lower part. They'll be always let's go all in. So
Yeah.
them going all in, 13 billion all in, for 13 billion dirhams all in for an AI strategy. But great. And Abu Dhabi and Dubai, there. To be honest, within UAE, Abu Dhabi and AI in the Abu Dhabi and Dubai are in the fight for AI supremacy. And in the Middle East, we see that UAE is trying to get a bigger hand and upper hand
I
on
think when you
Saudi.
have the most money, I think you have
Yeah.
the upper hand.
Yeah.
I don't even
Because
think
you
it's
need
a
to
fight.
invest.
I don't even think it's a fight, Majid.
Yeah, it's not a fight.
I don't
to be
take a
honest.
look at it like that. And finally, for our last topic today, the World Economic Forum annual meeting took place in Davos. And what's really interesting is the CEO of Mubadala attended, Khaldoon Al-Mubarak. And what he did is that he actually gave a speech and he outlined how Mubadala is looking to really implement an aggressive AI strategy that it's going to change everything.
Yeah.
It's going to change all the industries. It's going to change all the jobs. And what he specifically said is that AI's disruption will touch every corner of our lives.
Yeah. Mubadala, it's a very big fund. To be honest, I feel bad for them. They are a $330 billion fund.
Why do you feel bad for them?
Because they get overshadowed a lot by ADIA, Abu Dhabi Investment Authority. That's 1.3 trillion itself. And these are this is 25% of what ADIA is. But I love Mubadala's website. When you go there, you see all the investments that they've made. They have the whole list of startups. They have a whole portfolio. And that portfolio is filled with everything that you can dream of. Biosciences, normal sciences, fintech, this tech, that tech. Everything is there. They've invested in everything. This comment is very important for me because one of the biggest sovereign wealth funds in Abu Dhabi coming and saying that we're going aggressively, bullishly towards AI. It's a great thing. The good thing is Mubadala has already done that. So G42, our favorite, we know Abu
Chaired
Dhabi.
by Sheikh Tahnoon.
Yeah, chaired by Sheikh Tahnoon. So G42, Mubadala has a stake in it. Apart from that, MGX is one of the most underrated, most not talked about company that we have in the UAE. MGX invested when OpenAI opened their VC funding, and they invested. OpenAI made $6.6 billion from that VC funding. MGX was a part of it. Then recently, you remember Elon Musk's XAI, the AI startup that he has, whose product is Grok, the AI that you use on Twitter. He also opened funding. He got $6 billion. Abu Dhabi's MGX took part in that. So that fund is very important, and it's half by Mubadala. So MGX is half Mubadala, half G42. So imagine the kind of investments they've already made in everything AI. So him going on the stage in the panel saying that, yes, we are going all out on AI because he thinks it touches every aspect of life. And to be honest, it's true.
It does, of course
AI
it does.
is changing everything. Even your phone now has AI.
Even our content,
Yeah,
it's
everything is
absolutely
AI.
changing
Yeah.
everything.
So him going bullish, it shows a very big move from Abu Dhabi. We already know that they're going for AI supremacy, but such a big fund saying this, and their CEO saying this clearly in very clear words that it touches every aspect of human life, so we're going bullish on it. It's a great idea.
It is a great idea. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, everyone. This is Smashi Business Show, a Smashi Business production under the Augustus Media Podcast Network. You can find our newsletter on Smashi TV, and make sure to follow us on all of our channels. Thank you so much for watching.
Take care. Bye-bye.